If you're a designer, the way you think about building digital products needs to change. Most current AI tools feel like they only serve developers, but what if I told you that you could get just as much value from them as a designer? The good news is that you probably understand more than you realize. You just need to adapt the way you think. Here's what I mean. As creatives, we're taught to think visually. If you have a component on Figma, you can point to it on your design, and your relationship with what you're building feels direct and tangible. When our developers build our designs in code, however, it looks alien to us. Lines of green text on a black screen just doesn't feel visual or intuitive. It's the same product, just built in two different ways. One way that's helped me is to think about it like wave-particle duality in physics, how light can be perceived both as a wave or a particle depending on the context. Building in code is about describing what something is, where it sits in relation to other items, and what it should look like. It's really a mental model shift from pointing at things in Figma and describing them in text. For simple websites and apps, you can write code in different types of files. Depending on the type of code file that is written, it will serve a different purpose in your app. There are three main types of code files: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for any basic website. One analogy that helped me understand this was to think about building a house. You've got the structure, the way it looks, and everything inside that actually works. In Figma, we've got this all in one single design. With code, you've got HTML, where that's the main structure, the walls, the floors, the roof, the skeleton of the whole building, and think of this like your basic wireframe in Figma. CSS is the decoration, the paint, the wallpaper, furniture, and everything about how it looks and feels. The way this would translate to your design file is your Figma color styles or design tokens. Finally, you've got the JavaScript functionality, the plumbing, electrics, and everything that actually does something or responds when you interact with it. In Figma, this would be your prototype mode. So let's see what that actually looks like in a real project. On the screen now, I've got my portfolio website opened up in VS Code. On the left-hand side, we can see a number of files and folders. Look at the suffixes in the names, such as TSX or CSS. If we look at it with the file type in mind, it will start to make more sense. Over here, I've got my app folder, where I've got my main homepage as well as the about page. If we look into this file, you can see the main homepage and its structure. And below that over here, I've got the components folder, where inside we've got UI with familiar components like buttons and cards. This is exactly how a developer would use things that we've designed in Figma. One thing to caveat is that all of these files are built with a React framework. It's a bit complex for right now, and hopefully we can go into that in a future video. But for now, this is a good overview. Lastly, let's have a look at the globals.css file. This is pretty much our design system built in code. I've got all the colors and styles that I will use in Figma on this page. If I wanted to change something, I can click here and change that in the code directly. So that's a quick overview of how the different file types that make up our website work together, and it might look complex at the first glance, but the more you engage with it, the more you'll understand. Another good place to start is by familiarizing yourself with the useful terms that you might come across in your web development journey. The first is IDE or text editor. The integrated development environment is where you write and read code. Think of it as your design tool, but for code. A popular one right now is VS Code. The second is Git, which is a system for tracking changes to your code over time. A bit like version history in Figma, but with a lot more control. GitHub is where most code gets stored and shared with others in your team. A component, like we covered earlier, is a reusable piece of UI. A button, a card, a navigation bar, which is the same idea as in Figma. Finally, you've got the local host, which is when you're building something and you want to see it in the browser before it goes live. It will show up in localhost, meaning it's only available in your machine. You don't need to memorize any of these words at the moment, but that's where I would start to think about them. Finally, the reason that I decided to make this video is because it's something I wished I would have had when I first started to work with code. I was doing a lot of vibe coding for my own projects, and there was one moment where it clicked for me. There was a time when I was nearly out of AI credits, and I needed to change the color on a page. My first instinct was to prompt the AI to do it for me. But then I thought, because I know the color lives in the CSS file, I know what a hex code looks like, I might be able to change it myself. Once I found it and did that, everything changed. I started to think and work with code a lot more easily, and it's something that I wanted to share with other designers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.